Congressman, again, not a good idea to choke you out. I don't think people understand that you're like 6'6".
No, not that big, but I did spend some time in the infantry and the army, so there's some good training there.
So you're not gagged. You don't have a court order that you can't. Nobody's trying to infringe on your freedom of speech. You travel with the president.
You never know. That's why I'll never step foot in New York, because they'll just take your rights away.
That's exactly correct, right? Donald Trump says if I fly over a blue state, I get indicted. So stay in Florida, stay in still in a free state, and you have the capacity to defend Donald Trump. You've been on the road with him. This must repulse you, as it does, I think, the vast majority of the country. My contention here is that it backfired. Looking at the recent polls, do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I also look at it from the legal lens, because I used to practice law before I got elected to Congress, and it's a dumpster fire, all created by Democrats. And you're right, this was all, they don't really care if he gets convicted. They would love for him to get convicted and go to jail. That's their ultimate goal. But their intention was to keep him off the campaign trail and have him spend millions upon millions of dollars defending himself, everywhere from Florida with the classified documents case to Georgia in that case, and New York in this case. And so let's just file all these suits against him, go after him criminally wherever we can. It'll keep him off the campaign trail and make him spend millions of dollars. But what's interesting, what my concern is here is, I hope and I pray that this jury is not going to be political in their decision. New York's 85% Democrat, and I hope they're going to look at all this the way a jury should look at this and be like, this is insane. Like, this woman, Stormy Daniels, said that she had this affair, then sign an affidavit that she didn't have the affair, and then that's like the crux of this testimony. And what they're trying him on isn't actually a crime. You can do non-disclosure agreements all day long. If your lawyer's handling that, that's what happens in the business world. Who knows how much knowledge he had of what was actually going on. Michael Cohen, their other star witness, we just did a referral. Jim Jordan and Comer and the House did a referral for all the lies that he did in his testimony before Congress. And he's a convicted liar. He's actually been convicted and gone to jail for lying. And those are their two star witnesses in this case. So you hope that the jury is going to see through all of the BS and the partisanship here. And what's really scary as an American is that you are witnessing the full-on weaponization of the federal government, where they are using the tools in the criminal justice system to go after their political opponent 6 months before an election. This is stuff you see in Venezuela.
And so it's like, as you're talking through this, right? Like, you're a member of Congress. You're somebody who sits on the Ways and Means Committee, the Select Subcommittee on Weaponization of the federal government. You're a very powerful person. You're a very smart person. You're an accomplished person. And yet you're sitting here talking about a porn star, like some slop from 10 years ago.
Right.
Why they waited to bring this, I don't know if it was such a heinous crime, but here we are. This is the point. Isn't that the point? Like, the point is that you and I have to talk about this, and we don't talk about Joe Biden.
Well, and you're allowing her. They knew she was going to talk about all these made up details of whatever this alleged affair is that they had, and anything to drag Trump through the mud, on top of trying to take his rights away, on top of gagging him and not allowing him to speak. Yet Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen can say all this crazy crap online, on Twitter, and everywhere else. It's just atrocious as an American that you're seeing this happen, from the political standpoint, from the legal standpoint, and from the fact that the government has been completely weaponized against Donald Trump from the beginning. This is the same federal government that spied on his campaign, that went after him, that used the criminal justice system through FISA, which I voted against reauthorizing, by the way, and how that got passed under a Republican House. That's a whole nother story for another day. But like how the federal government is using its power to go after its political opponent. And I hope the majority of Americans, I think they do. I think people that don't pay attention to the news, I think they see this for what it is, which is why each time he gets indicted, or each time something happens in one of these court cases, his numbers skyrocket, because everyday Americans know it's a bunch of crap, and they know that it's just Joe Biden and Democratic attorney generals in these states going after him because they can, and there's no check and balances in those states. And I submit to you, if there's not crazy cheating in some of these states, I think his numbers are going to be astronomical. If you look at his polling, he's doing phenomenal in states that he didn't do phenomenal the last time, and in states that are swing states. So the American people, everyday Americans, see this for what it is, and that's what's going to blow up in these Democrats' face.
I believe it. I see a path to a 100-point election landslide. Like I really do. I see the path to a victory on election night, especially given some of the laws that Georgia just signed, the watermarking of the ballots, the return dates, the 100% voter ID. Georgia finally following the footsteps of the great state of Florida in getting their elections done. It really is remarkable living here in Florida because it's like election night. It's 7 o'clock, and you know who won. It's incredible. It's amazing. It might not have been the person you liked, but like the system worked, right?
You know, like an hour after the polls close, they immediately run all the absentee ballots and early voting ballots. You'll get that number like 25 to 30 minutes after, and by an hour in, everybody in the state of Florida, including like the presidential levels where they've taken all the different data from all the different counties, we know the results, and that tells you that there's not shenanigans going on here. And then in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where like 600,000 or 300,000 ballots show up at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a lot of suspicion there that there's a lot of things going on that shouldn't be going on. And again, the American people see that for what it is. Why can we have states like Florida, the results in an hour, and states like New York and California, where it's like 30 days where they can go and harvest ballots after the election?
Yeah. So weird. It's strange the number. We must just have better plumbing down here, Congressman. Pipes just don't burst in the middle of the election center. It must be bad. I've never heard like stop the count, pipe burst. Got it? Okay. It's like, don't worry, we got better plumbing, if you know what I mean. So, all right, moving to the state of Florida and the legal matters while we're down here, because there are some big Florida questions that are being asked concerning Donald Trump and meeting with Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio potentially. But I want to talk first about Eileen Cannon, who set the world on fire 24 hours ago. Federal judge here in Florida just asking simple questions of the government, and the government is collapsing. Jack Smith's case is on fire in that courthouse here in Florida. But just having a judge ask a couple of like follow-up questions, like, where'd the documents come from? Have you tampered with the evidence? Did the government have all these classified documents before they shoved them into Donald Trump's home? And they don't have answers to it, man. Hey, Jack Smith, are you legal? That's pretty amazing. She's scheduled a hearing on whether Jack Smith is actually like able to do this job as a special counsel. According to Ed Meese, he's not.
Yeah, it's interesting how, as a judge, we saw this in the Hunter Biden case, as a judge, just ask simple questions like, where's the evidence to back this up? What was the, why was all this tampered with? Why did you, Jack Smith, represent to me that this was the exact way it was when you picked it out of Mar-a-Lago and that was a lie? So now you have prosecution lying to the judge in a very obviously high-level serious case, and good on her to follow the law and ask tough questions. Thankfully, in some of these cases, finally, we have a non-corrupt judge that's going to actually follow the law and ask tough questions of the people bringing these ridiculous charges against the president. And underlying all of this, you have, Hillary Clinton, who destroyed servers, and that was fine. You have Joe Biden, who literally had classified documents in his garage, and nothing happens to him. Like within just the last couple of years, you have the exact same circumstances, and those people don't get prosecuted, but we're going to go after President Trump. It just shows you again the complete weaponization and attacking of going after their political opponents and using the judicial system to do it. And I pray that after, and I know he will, after Trump wins, that we are going to clean house in the DOJ and get rid of all these people. And people like Alvin Bragg deserve to be prosecuted for prosecutorial misconduct. They deserve to go to jail for using the justice system illegally and using it to go after their political opponents without evidence that an actual crime even committed. You had Jonathan Turley's clip on earlier. Like, what's the crime? Like, what is it that you're actually trying to prove that this defendant did wrong? And nobody can figure that out.
So can you? I'm not an attorney, right? I went to community college. Okay, so maybe you can elucidate for me, sir. as an attorney, and I don't know what kind of law you practice, but I assume you're protecting and defending people, and you know the code of the law. If you go to a crime scene, this is just my basic understanding, but if a law enforcement official goes to a crime scene and then plants evidence on the crime scene or stages the crime scene in a way that would make the accused look more guilty, that's a no-no. Like that's seen as bad and may actually open up those law enforcement officials to prosecution themselves. Yet here we have Jack Smith admitting in court that they affixed classified document markings on documents that weren't even classified, threw them on the floor, took photographs to leak to the Washington Post. How the hell isn't that tampering and or planting of evidence in order to convict Donald Trump?
Well, and in our law school world, we call that fruit of the poisonous tree. And that evidence now, because it's a fruit of the poisonous tree, all that has to go. None of that can be accepted into the court proceeding. So that's why she's asking these questions, and she shut all this stuff down, because if that did in fact happen, which it clearly looks like it did, then none of that evidence can be admitted. And then therefore, what is it, the crime that you were alleging that has been committed here? So yeah, it's real serious stuff. And I also agree that the individuals that were involved in this, if they broke the law and tampered with evidence, they should be prosecuted for all of this. But under Biden's corrupt DOJ, they're not going to be. All of these individuals like Hunter Biden and all these other things that have gone on, they're not going to be prosecuted. But when Trump becomes president and we have an actual attorney general that wants to follow the law, I hope that all of these people that violated people's First Amendment rights, their constitutional rights, are held accountable.
Yeah, I just moving from past the Florida state line to Georgia. If Fani Willis is on the stand, we've been through this a bunch on this program, so the viewers are very familiar with this. Fani Willis admits to campaign finance violations, that she spent her own campaign funds, not on her campaign. She admits to lying to the court a bunch of times. She lied about whether she went to the White House. There's a Secret Service record of her at the White House. And then, of course, she misrepresented the entire trial before the court in documents. And so, you gotta ask yourself, like, can you talk me through what should be the penalty for somebody like Fani Willis?
She perjured herself. She lied under oath, and whatever the state of Georgia is for lying under oath, she should be held accountable for that. So once this all gets through and hopefully Trump gets all this stuff dismissed, then she should be held accountable for that. Just like Alvin Bragg should be held accountable for prosecutorial misconduct. And the people that are involved in this classified documents case, this federal case in Florida, should also be held accountable. And all of these people that were involved in spying on the Trump campaign 4 years ago, none of them have ever been held accountable for any of the things that happened to spy without a warrant on American citizens. So there should be a reckoning to rewrite and reset the justice system in our country back to the way it should be, fair, and a fair and balanced approach to the law. And if you broke the law, whether you're Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or not, you should be held accountable.
Yes. Florida is going to be sort of the center of the political universe, it looks like. Right now, there are a bunch of rising stars out of Florida. You yourself are one of them. You know the nature of the state very well in the political landscape of the state, Congressman. Many are floating Marco Rubio as a potential VP candidate, and we're seeing all the signs, the speeches and the TV hits and everything, and we're hearing a bunch of rumblings from inside of the team. Who knows? Okay, I've been told that everything's up in the air, but your thoughts on that, given the fact that I guess I guess like somebody would have to move. Can you talk us through like what would happen there? Do you agree, by the way, with that pick?
Well, I don't want to speak for the president at all. I know he's looking at a lot of people, and every name I've heard are all great Americans. But yeah, there's a piece in the Constitution that doesn't allow the president and the vice president to hail from the same state. So I think something would have to happen there if he did pick somebody from Florida. And then that would also cause a lot of other issues too, because Marco's in the middle of his Senate term. So then the governor would have to appoint for the remainder of that term. So that would also cause some issues. We've got a lot of great Americans and leaders in the state of Florida, and that's why the president is looking there. But that is some concerns that he's going to have from a constitutional perspective. But the reason why you're seeing all of these people go to different events and talk on TV about it is Trump isn't involved in the film and entertainment industry. So he's basically looking at all these auditions of people and seeing their performances and how they would actually do in the job. So I think he's taking it all in. I haven't had any conversations with him as to who he's leaning towards or what he's actually thinking. There's a lot of great Americans out there that would do a really good job.
We think that that's what the DeSantis meeting was about. That's what we think. We think the DeSantis meeting is about the appointment of a senator in Marco Rubio's position, and we think it all lines up. And given the slate, we think that'd be a great pick. I mean, quite frankly, I think it'd be very powerful. I would love nothing more than to see that debate between Marco Rubio and Kamala Harris.
I can tell you who's going to win that debate right now. Marco's got that covered.
So, broader picture, we have less than 150 days for the general election. It's wild to think about that. What's the strategy of the campaign? I know you're very close to the president. I know you campaign with the president. I'm sure you plan on campaigning the president, probably speaking at the RNC convention. Can you give us the road ahead?
Yeah, the road ahead, at least from my perspective, is focusing on the swing states. You got to focus on Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona. I think Florida is a solidly red state now. If you look at from 2 years ago, what the results were, DeSantis won by, 1.5 million or 1.2 million votes in the state of Florida after winning by like 30 or 50,000 votes 4 years before that. So I think we're solidly red here in the state of Florida. If you look who's been moving into the state, if you look at who's registering to vote, it's like 3-1 Republican over Democrat. So I'm not concerned about these liberals from New York moving to the state of Florida and bringing their politics. It's actually the people that are fed up with New York that are moving to Florida because they're tired of the politics. So we got to focus on the states that he has to win. I think Texas is in the win column. Florida is in the win column. You got to focus on Michigan. You got to focus on Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Wisconsin, because he's got to win one of the two of those if he doesn't win Arizona and Nevada. Or if you can pick up in Arizona and Nevada, you only need one of those based on the Electoral College. So in my opinion, I'm not a leader in the RNC, but that's where they should be focusing their efforts. All of our resources should be going there and helping him win those swing states. You shouldn't be spending time in states that you know you're going to win. We should be focused on those states.
Donald Trump saying he's going to do a Trump rally in Madison Square Garden. Would you go to that?
I don't know. I'm afraid that Alvin Bragg would try to make up some ridiculous crime of me just a conservative being in New York, and they would just arrest me for that. And the next thing you know, you're dealing with made up charges.
Star witness Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen. Look at the integrity of our case. Congressman, it's always an honor to have you on the program. Thank you so much for your fight and for your clarity. I really hope that Trump selects you as the special prosecutor to oversee the DOJ firings and criminal referrals.
I would enjoy that. I think we need a strong leader in those positions.
Yeah. All right. Great. Clip it. Send it out. Okay. That's our endorsement. Our show's endorsement. Special prosecutor, Congressman Steube. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.